stayed with me was the idea of Lucifer when he was cast out of hell, according to the stories. Um, how did that happen? I mean, if God had a perfectly good place, then how could one angel decide, have even free will in this case? Do angels have free will? How did this angel have the free will to choose to not obey God, or not to, or to choose to actually become against God in some respect? I don't even know what the disagreement exactly was at this point anymore, but somehow fall out of heaven, become the fallen angel, and take an army down. So apparently he must have influenced an army up there. Uh, but I don't remember exactly. Anyhow, if God was an all-knowing God also, he probably would have already known this was all going to happen. So it's just interesting trying to play this God game where you're the three omni, omnipotent, omniscient, and omnibenevolent, where you kind of see everything ahead of time. You have the power to stop, and if you're loving enough, you will, but unless you have a greater reason to not. So, anyhow, I want to kind of step aside from some of the scriptural, uh, I guess, ranting, and get on to, I guess, my road to atheism. And how I understand atheism, and how I don't find it to be so different than agnosticism, which I know a lot of atheists will probably hate me for, but maybe when I clarify my position, you can better construct or obstruct what I'm saying. Um, okay, so atheism at first seemed like, of course, a sin. And in fact, when I mean, I won't, I'm going to be completely honest, when I was still a believer, I didn't, I to my limited knowledge of atheism, the only thing I knew that it was what it was that it was bad. And in some sense, I actually thought it was somehow linked to Satanism, and if you were an atheist, that means you hated God. But in actuality, atheism, the history of the term is one fascination, but atheism is actually, to my understanding, the lack of a belief in a God. Or if you take, the George Smith approach, God could be um, even a confusing concept to even properly conceive of or understand. So just to the very vague sense that atheism then means the lack of a belief in the supernatural entity. I gradually grew towards this road as I started. I'm not kidding you. I've been at Rio Hondo College for a really long time now. 4 years straight and about another 3 years off and on. Total of almost about 7 years. For a good majority of about almost 3 years, I think 2007, 8, and 9, a little bit of 9, maybe just 2 years, I would say. I was really dedicated to reading philosophy books in the library, the old library. Now we have a new one, but the upstairs, all the way, the quiet room. met a met a girl up there too. It was kind of funny while reading philosophy. So hey, philosophy, love of wisdom gives you good luck. Just kidding. But I read nothing but logic books, metaphysics books. I still didn't even understand the distinction. All the terminology sounded like Chinese to me at the time. But then I took some classes, and I learned more about, I guess, the thematic of philosophy, where what constitutes as philosophy, and when you actually venture into the sciences or some other sort of discipline. And I realized how tab-rooted into everything in the human discourse and human life that philosophy touches upon, including one of the most important aspects, and one of the most important aspects of, according to all, if we put them on a par, was my religion. And it did challenge it. I mean, at first, when you're not sure exactly what you're an atheist, a lot of times people ask me, "Oh, David, you're an atheist. How did you become an atheist? When did you stop believing?" And it's like it's not. It wasn't one specific instance where all of a sudden you said, "Oh, there's no God," or "There's no supernatural entity." It's a series of curious events, and for some people, it's maybe they hear a famous speaker like Richard Dawkins, and they'll all of a sudden follow, and because of the, I guess, the pop culture and the pop philosophy, and you want to sound like an intellectual of that. Yeah, I don't know. And you'll invest the time to look at some of the arguments. But in my case, it was more so the um, just pure investigating the arguments, and then later on, a couple of famous speakers. Richard Dawkins, by the way, was one of them, and of course Christopher Hitchens, Daniel Dennett. I still like Sam Harris. He's a brilliant speaker. But besides them, I mean, those were the pop kind of philosophical atheists, somewhat philosophical, more political in some sense, but at least two of them. For the most part, atheism has been, like I said, a gradual curiosity. Okay, but now stemming into some of the arguments, the ones that really, really took... I think I started actually understanding atheism with... Um, my fascination actually grew from what I could know. And I think this is why I esteem epistemology most out of the other branches of philosophy, like ethics and metaphysics and whatnot. Because I think even more important than my religion at the time was questions, fundamental, rudimentary questions about, where am I? Do I have a purpose? Where am I going? Why am I here? What am I? The utterance of why, what is the significance behind it? Is, can you really derive everything that the world has? Does it really have such meaning that we prescribe to it, or is why just an insignificant utterance that we've given too much esteem to? I mean, there's all sorts of questions that it seems to me to be epistemological that I give more credence to than actually trying to devote myself to a dogma. And when in retrospect, and I look at it, I still feel that I'm more inclined towards this sort of philosophical uh, tide that I've been pulled against and continue to be pulled against, because I still don't even feel, if I feel that a supernatural entity could pose itself in an argument to be so convincing as to sway my mind from what it currently is, there's not that much force that would keep me from wanting to say, no, I'm an atheist. And sometimes I do feel that way. In fact, in the past, I felt that way, especially during my transitional era. But right now, I feel sort of like if the designer arguments, say, did have it that maybe there was some sort of purpose or special accordance with my existence in the external world, if there is an external world, then I'm kind of willing to accept some sort of not divine intervention, that's a little too far, a little too sketchy, but maybe some divine sort of interaction in the behind the creation of the universe. Because, yeah, the cosmological argument is another one of the really big ones that got me into it, and also in part got me into physics a little bit. I still don't know a lot about physics, but I have, thanks to Edward from my class, Edward Punjit, I think that's how you pronounce it, sorry. Those physics videos and astronomy videos and all sorts of like teach yourself sort of videos, which anyhow, that's some pretty interesting stuff. But the universe,